I read with great interest, Mr. Pottinger, your essay that you would send to us. Very well done. You point out that why 2026 could prove as important as 1989 and then build a narrative based on that. I would say one of the most important transformational things that happened under the Clinton administration was on May 26, 1994, Bill Clinton delinked human rights from trade. In a bipartisan way. We opposed that vigorously. I went to China before he did it because there were indications he was going to, which would just unleash hell on the human rights community there, democracy activists, and of course put us and everyone else at risk. And he just did it. And then by the end of the 1990s, or near the end, Christopher Cox did that very, very important piece, the Cox Commission, about how there was such a transfer, and courtesy of U.S. corporations and multinational corporations, of so much of our technology. And I worry a great deal, as I know you do as well and others, about how the inability, it seems, of many of the people who make a lot of money to see the implications of that dual-use technology. I had a hearing in here in 2006 on Google and Cisco, Microsoft, as they were transferring all of this technology to the Chinese Communist Party, and it's as if they didn't care. And you know, I even quoted IBM and the Holocaust, a great book that talked about how IBM had aided and abetted the Holocaust and the Gestapo, and I said, here we go again, they're doing it. So my question is, or questions, I do co-chair the Congressional Executive Commission on China, whose mandate is to document the PRC's non-compliance with international human rights standards. Last month, the Australian Strategic Policy Institute issued a report on how China's new AI systems are reshaping human rights. One of the top line points is that the CCP governance model is being honed into a, quote, precision instrument for managing its population and targeting groups at home and abroad. Among the developments is the ability to preemptively suppress dissent by predicting content before it's posted online. Sounds like something from the Minority Report, where crimes are preemptively stopped before they happen in that movie. Can you elaborate on the implications AI has under the control of the Chinese Communist Party on human rights issues? And what about preserving historical memory? You know, one of the things that even Google did, we actually showed it, when you did the Google search back in 2006, put in Tiananmen Square, nothing but happy pictures of people smiling and visiting the square. Nothing about the tanks, nothing about the Tiananmen Square massacre. How might that shape it?
Congressman, thanks for your decades of leadership on human rights. If we had listened to you all those years ago,
and others,
you know, well, it would be an even worse irony. I mean, we essentially, in pursuit of trade, sacrificed our principles on human rights 3 decades ago, which has put us in this difficult position vis-a-vis China. It would be an even more egregious foul if we were to sacrifice our national security in pursuit of trade. So let's not compound the mistake we made a quarter of a century or so ago. Look, we're already seeing ways that Beijing is using AI to surveil and to repress and to manipulate public opinion. And that's not only within China, it's now increasingly on our own shores as well. TikTok is, if you like, a primitive form of AI that has already had very destructive effects on democracy and free speech in the United States. And that's because there is plenty of evidence, and this is long before, you know, OpenAI was a major thing, right? We're talking about a technology that was developed years ago. They're able to either suppress speech through the algorithm, which is or to you know, promote speech. That's true of social media, but when it is regulated by not the United States government, where we have First Amendment protections, but in fact the algorithm is being governed in Beijing by a totalitarian dictatorship, it means we are sacrificing free speech in the United States by deferring to Beijing to decide what speech trends or is barely seen by anybody. So I think it only gets worse as the AI gets better, and that's why we don't want our AI regulated by Beijing. Beijing is going to be regulating our AI if Chinese companies are in the lead and their AI starts to become adopted heavily by much of the world, whether it's here in the United States, in Western Europe, with democratic allies, or in the parts of the world where most people actually live, in the global South, and all the places in between.
Thank you.